Earlier this week, my friends and I had a real privilege, a very emotional experience when we got to participate in the wreath laying in honor of my cousin who was killed here in the Ypres Salient at the Menin Gate. If you're not familiar with the Menin Gate ceremony, every single night at 8 p.m. here in Ypres, the Last Post Association does a memorial service. They play the Last Post, which for my American friends is the British Commonwealth version of taps. They play the Last Post in honor of all of the men who fell here. And wreaths are laid by various organizations, very often for family members. And in this case, that's exactly who this is. Private Edward Whitaker was my grandmother's cousin. My grandmother was a Whitaker. And Edward fought with the 1st Battalion of the East Lancashire Regiment. And he was killed in May of 1915 at a place very near to here called Mousetrap Farm. And like nearly 100,000 other members of the British and Commonwealth forces, his grave was unidentified after the war. But from the research that I've done and from talking to people who are eminently more qualified than I am to do such research, it seems most likely that Edward's remains, if they were discovered, lie in an unknown grave here at the New Irish Farm Cemetery, along with other members who are identified from his battalion. So I have the wreath that we laid at the Menin Gate. It was given back to me after it was there for a couple of days by our friend Yuri, who is a part of the Last Post Association, so that I could bring it here to the place that Edward probably lies today. As we often discuss, remains continue to be found on the battlefield all the time. And you see this entire section here in the front of the cemetery with relatively new grave markers. And even the grass is different. You can see that this ground has been disturbed. So these are more recent burials here, including an unknown German soldier lying side by side with his British counterparts. Right here we have Captain Leake of the East Lancashire Regiment, killed the same day as Edward Whitaker. And very near to him, an unknown soldier of the Great War. This is where we're going to leave the wreath. The reason the Menin Gate exists here, or the Thiepval Memorial exists at the Somme, or any other number of these monuments to the missing exist, is because for far too many families, there was nowhere to go. It was horrible enough to have lost a son, a husband, multiple family members, but to also know that their remains were never identified, and so there's no grave that you can visit. There's no tangible place to go and pay your respects. So they created the Menin Gate and things like it. And at the dedication for the Menin Gate, Lord Plumer said, "Now it can be said of these men, he is not missing, he is here." And Edward Whittaker is on panel 34 of the Menin Gate. And I'd like to think, I know that what I do here today doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things all that much, but I'd like to think that I can at least now say, Edward, you're not missing. You're here. And you're here. I hope we never forget.